What's shaking booktube? My name's Cam. Welcome back to another video. That's enough small talk. Obviously this video looks pretty different to my normal ones, like aesthetically. That's because it is a real fucking pain in the ass to film this on like a proper camera and then capture the, video of my desktop where I'm going to be doing the actual tier list and then also the audio and putting that all together and cutting it. It's a pain in the ass. I could do it, but I just can't be fucked. So I'm using an admittedly probably too old webcam to film this video so I can do it all in one video. So if it looks like I filmed this video with a literal piece of dry macaroni, please just bear with me. So there was a trend going around YouTube a little while ago, and I'm obviously late to it because I always am, but there was a trend going around YouTube where you put things on a tier list, and you know what, I thought, why the hell not turn this into like a bookish thing? So I'm going to be ranking book to movie adaptations, putting them on a tier list, basically from S being the best, F being the worst, and I'll have a chat, about what I think makes them good, or makes them bad, or makes them in between. Obviously this is super subjective, you might have a different opinion, so if you do have a wrong, stupid opinion, don't feel bad about it. Oh, and it's also gonna only be like the really big, blockbuster, iconic kind of book to movie adaptations, not the artsy bullshit, so you're not gonna see any Clockwork Orange or Shawshank Redemption. I'm just kidding, Jesus Christ, I'm just kidding. So here we are, here's the tier list. Like I said, S is the best, and F is obviously the worst. These are the adaptations we'll be ranking today. Obviously, I've got all of the really big, important ones. Realistically, it's just the major ones I remember from my childhood, so nostalgia will probably be a bit of a driving force in this video. I suppose we should probably get Harry Potter out of the way first. That's obviously the biggest one of them all. We'll get that out of the way first so that I'm assuming 70% of the people watching this video right now can get back to watching unboxing videos. With a franchise as phenomenal as Harry Potter, not just because I grew up almost the same age as these characters as the movies were coming out, but I think objectively, even if you don't like the Harry Potter films, you can tell that the cultural impact it had on the world at large and for reading was just monumental. It was something that no one could have seen coming. I think the Harry Potter films really did change the game. I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that almost all booktubers on booktube have at some point made videos about Harry Potter. It's because Harry Potter is, for a lot of us, the books that got us into reading. So the clear answer would be S, right? Especially when you take into account that really awesome Voldemort Draco Malfoy hug from the last film. It almost seems like it's just a clear-cut winner for S. It's got to be top of the line, but you know what? I'm putting it in A. I'm saying no. And you know why? Because those motherfuckers cut out Draco's redemption scene. All of you have probably already seen this, but if you haven't seen this, it's gonna blow your fucking mind, right? There is a redemption scene for Draco Malfoy. There is a scene that basically sums up what Draco's character arc was from the Half-Blood Prince right up into the last film. There was one scene that really brought that together in an awesome get out of your seat and cheer kind of way, and they f***ing cut it. Here it is. Potter! So yeah, at most, Harry Potter gets an A from me. That's just how it's gotta be. So then we move on to the next biggest one in my opinion, my extremely correct opinion, which is Lord of the motherfucking Rings, baby. How do you even rank a trilogy as truly iconic as this? One of the most epic adventures you could ever enjoy in cinematic history in a way that exceeded all expectations. It was groundbreaking for CGI and epic scale battles on the silver screen at that point in time. Lord of the Rings is the ultimate quest film series. There is no better quest film series than Lord of the Rings. The absolute top of the tier for fantasy as far as I'm concerned. It had bromance. It had sometimes awkward bromance. It had important lessons about overcoming prejudice.
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
more well-fleshed character arcs than you can count on one hand, including a lot of beat plots that were brilliant in themselves. And plus, what some people would say is the most important point, it had what is arguably Sean Bean's most iconic death scene, of which there are many, of course. And yes, I am ranking that above Game of Thrones. Look, here's the deal. I'm giving Lord of the Rings an S, because if Lord of the Rings isn't in the S category, I don't know what could be. That film series is literal perfection, and I know some people disagree, but what you gotta understand with those people is that they're f***ing idiots. I guess it would make sense to go into The Hobbit next. It's tricky to say for The Hobbit because The Hobbit is my favorite book of all time. For me, like I know I've mentioned before about Harry Potter getting a lot of people into reading, for me The Hobbit was not only what got me into reading at a young age, but what made me want to be a writer at a young age. And I think The Hobbit is arguably a more enjoyable story than the Lord of the Rings books. And not only because it's a lot more simple and a lot more straightforward. But today we're talking about the films. So, I didn't hate it as much as a lot of other people do. I know there's a lot of diehard Middle-earth series fans who just despise The Hobbit and everything it is. And I get it. I understand. They did change a whole ton of stuff from the book just to stretch it out over 3 movies, and I think we can all agree that that was a bit of a cash grab, for sure. I don't necessarily have a problem with studios changing details of a book to transfer it to film, because a lot of things in book just don't work as well visually, and it's just factual that you do have to change stuff sometimes to make it work. I'm okay with that. For example, what is it, Azog, the white orc, the pale orc, he's almost a non-character in the Hobbit book itself. I think that was one of the best changes they made to the films, was making that a major villain rather than the main antagonist just being all of these mini-bosses along the way, and then obviously Thorin's dragon sickness towards the end. There's just a whole lot of stuff they changed that I appreciated. But yes, The Hobbit did kind of grab the teat that was Middle-earth and milked it dry to the point where it was just dust coming out towards the end. But how can you give this film any less than a B, yes, I'm giving it a B, when there is a minute-long compilation of Martin Freeman flipping the bird behind the scenes? Literally 1 minute of Martin Freeman just giving the finger like he's a 16-year-old fuckboy getting his photo taken at a house party. Eragon, I haven't seen it, haven't read the book, but you guys absolutely hate it, so I'm going to do you a favor, and it's going to be the first one to go in the F category. You're welcome. Alright, here's another controversial one we should get out of the way. Twilight. I would have bothered spending some time trying to defend these films because I watched them all, and I'll admit I got a whole lot of pleasure out of them. They're a bit of a guilty pleasure even. I would have spent some time pointing out a lot of the brilliance in the cinematography of these films, but I can't. Simply because of A, the fan scene that went way too long of Edward Cullen just, I guess, basking in her scent, and B, the It Was All a Vision scene from the last film that almost ruined it actually for me. So yeah, I think it's fair to put Twilight in. No. Okay, we'll go D. I hated that It Was All a Vision scene. Honestly, I hated it so much. Nothing like building up to an awesome climactic battle over 5 films and then saying, F*** you, to the audience and just saying, it was all a dream. Don't worry guys, it was all a dream. F*** you. Hunger Games gets an A. There's no doubt about that, because this is I would say Hunger Games is the book-to-movie adaptations that kind of revitalized the young adult or wave of young adult book-to-movie adaptations that are getting people interested in reading again. I think this series, while not as good as Harry Potter, although I'm putting it on the same tier, I think it did pretty much the same thing that Harry Potter did way back in the day, which was got a lot of kids into reading through telling an awesome story on screen with a lot of fun, action, etc. Even if Katniss at most times was like watching a piece of wet bread on the screen. You know what's funny? I've had people tell me before that they think I kind of look like Finnick Odair. That's not me trying to brag and be like, I guess some people think I look like Finnick. I don't agree. I think people only say that because we both have an overbite and an enormous forehead. As far as Finnick goes, I would literally have Seneca Crane's sideburns tattooed onto my arse cheek just to have that jawline. The next step after Hunger Games naturally would be Divergent, and can I say something controversial? I actually liked the first Divergent film more than the first Hunger Games film, but I guess we can't pretend like the sequels to Divergent didn't happen, so that one goes in the C category. Also, I can't see 4, the big angry dude 4, I can't see him anymore without seeing the poo nose guy from The Inbetweeners. I watched the sequels to Divergent after seeing the Inbetweeners movie, ruined it for me. Like, the sequels already kind of sucked. But that, every time I saw 4 on screen, all I could see was a little piece of shit dangling from his nose. Okay, so then we come to Percy Jackson. And I know, again, like Aragon, a lot of people hate this. I made a video ages back on, the best and worst movie to film adaptations. And a lot of people in the comments were like, why not Percy Jackson? Percy Jackson sucked. It was the worst, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I liked Percy Jackson, okay? So Percy gets a C for Cameron because this is my list. Screw you, this is my list. Okay, sure, tell me what other film you were going to see Pierce Brosnan, aka James Bond 007, as a half-man, half-horse. If you can name even one movie where I can find 007 as a half-man, half-horse, I will eat the cat. I'll eat the cat. I will concede that the sequel kind of sucked, but mainly just because it didn't have Pierce Brosnan as a half-man, half-horse anymore. They replaced him with that vest-wearing arsehole. Then we move on to the Dr. Seuss category. And look, I'm going to tell you something right now. The Grinch with Jim Carrey is the best Christmas film ever. I'm making that claim now, and I'm sticking by it. That is not just a hill I'm willing to die on, that is a snowy-capped mountain peak covered in trash that I'm willing to die on. The Grinch gets an S, and yes, it's even going above Harry Potter and Hunger Games.
Hello! Hello! How are you? How are you? How are you? I asked you first. Oh, that's really mature, saying exactly what I said. I'm an idiot! You're an idiot!
On the flip side of that, we have The Cat in the Hat, and if there was a ranking lower than F, I would put it there, because this film is one of the most atrocious pieces of crap I've ever seen in my life. I love Mike Myers, but Cat in the Hat sucked, and he sucked in it. It was bad. It was just... Look, I know it was a kid's movie, but if I had kids, I would rather let them watch The Human Centipede. Every single attempt in that movie to add an adult joke for the adults that would have to be watching it with their kids was so far from subtle that it was just cringy, and that was the beauty of films like The Grinch, is that they had adult jokes in there, but they were very subtle. Going back to Jim Carrey, we're going to talk about A Series of Unfortunate Events, the movie. Personally, I think the TV show is better than the movie, but the movie is still pretty good. If I was ranking this before the TV show came out, I probably would have given it a B. In this case, I'm going to give it a C. Mainly because the year that this movie came out, I think most people can attest to this, that there were a solid couple of months where people were walking around imitating that dinosaur bit that Jim Carrey does.
Let's go back to prehistoric times when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
And yeah, a lot of people are probably thinking that was super annoying, but the thing is, it wasn't annoying to the people that were doing it. Nearly there, gang. Last but not least, we have the It movies. The new one, I think, is unequivocally better than the last one. As far as horror movies go, it's not that great, but it was pretty good. It was fun. It was obvious they were trying to tap in that, kids fighting the bad guy nostalgia that Stranger Things was fueling on at the moment. And you know what? I'm willing to say I think they did a pretty good job of that. The new It, I'll give it a B. It can get a B from me. As for the old It, the first half of the movie is great. In fact, at a lot of points, I think it's even creepier than the new It movie. That's okay. Tim Curry is a legend. I love Tim Curry. And he was a good Pennywise. One of the scariest things about Pennywise from the old film is that unless he was doing something creepy, he seemed like a clown you could run into at a carnival. But I'm going to put it in the E category, and it's the only one in the E category today, because the whole second half of that film where they're adults was some of the most boring shit I've ever seen in a movie in my entire life. I hated it. And I love the fact that the new movie is splitting it up into two films, kids and them being adults, coming back as adults. I think that's a fantastic idea, because if they went the same way as the old film, I don't know if I would have been willing to even see it in the first place. Anyway, there we have it. I'm just going to move myself over here so you can see all my rankings. You're willing to do a video like this as well if you would like to dispute my rankings here. Like I said, it's all pretty subjective. It's just my opinion. I mean, you could disagree. You would be wrong for disagreeing, but you can disagree all the same. I'm actually also planning to do another kind of bookish tier list video where I put villains from books on a tier list, but I want to do that on a live stream. I think that would be really fun. So if you want to see that, you're going to have to be subscribed. Otherwise, you're going to miss it. And then within a couple of weeks, your whole life is just going to crumble into a pit of loneliness and depression. And you don't want that to happen and then look back and say, oh, I wish I'd just subscribed to Cam, and then it wouldn't have happened. So just do it. As always, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video, which hopefully will be me talking about Nevernight. Did I like it? Did I not? I did. Not. Or did I? Who knows? I know. But not you. But you would have to watch the next video. Catch ya.